They humiliated the American girl in the auto shop until she did what even the best mechanics couldn't. Jessica Miller swallowed her tears once more as she heard the laughter echoing through the shop. At 27, she was the only woman working at Progress Auto Repair, located in the industrial zone of Dearborn, and every day she faced the snide remarks from her co-workers. It was when the most expensive Cadillac the shop had ever received arrived, with a problem none of the experienced mechanics could solve, that her life took a completely different turn. "Jessica, you're not even getting near this car," said Richard, the head mechanic, pushing her away from the luxury vehicle. "This engine is worth more than your entire house." She lowered her head, as she always did when humiliated in front of others. Working at that shop for 3 years had been a constant nightmare. From the very first day when she arrived with her automotive mechanic certification, the men made it clear she wasn't welcome. The owner of the shop, Robert Wilson Thompson, a 60-year-old man who had inherited the business from his father, watched the commotion around the Cadillac with concern. The car belonged to a very influential businessman in the area, Thomas Anderson, owner of a chain of dealerships. "3 days," murmured Robert, running a hand through his graying hair. "3 days, and none of you have figured out what's wrong with this engine." Richard, a burly 42-year-old man, wiped his grease-stained hands on his overalls. He had worked at the shop for over 20 years and considered himself the best mechanic in town. "Boss, this problem is more complicated than it seems. We've checked everything. The injection system, ignition, fuel pump. Everything's working perfectly, but the car won't move." "Thomas Anderson will be here in 2 hours," said Robert, nervously glancing at his watch. "If we don't fix this today, we'll lose the shop's biggest client." Mike and Brian, the 2 other mechanics, exchanged worried looks. They knew the shop relied heavily on the luxury cars Thomas brought in for maintenance. Losing this client would mean firing at least 2 employees. Jessica was organizing tools in her corner when she overheard the conversation. Her heart raced. She had studied V12 engines like that one exhaustively during her training. She knew every component, every system, every possible flaw. "What if it's an issue with the electronic control module?" she murmured to herself, but loud enough for Richard to hear. "What did you say?" He turned angrily. "You think you know more than us?" "I just thought that—" "You don't think anything," Richard shouted. "Get back to your tools and stop chiming in where you weren't asked." The other mechanics laughed. It was always like this. Jessica had lost count of how many times her suggestions were ignored, only for one of the men to reach the same conclusion hours later and take all the credit. Deborah, the shop's secretary, watched everything from her desk in the attached office. She was a 55-year-old woman who had worked there for 15 years and had seen plenty of injustices happen to Jessica. The phone rang. It was Thomas Anderson. "Robert, I need my car ready today. I have an important meeting tomorrow morning in Chicago," said the businessman's firm voice on the other end. "Of course, Thomas. It's almost fixed," Robert lied, looking desperately at the mechanics. When he hung up, silence fell over the shop. Everyone knew they were in trouble. "Let's try one more time," said Richard, stepping back toward the engine. "Brian, check the electrical system again. Mike, take another look at the sensors." Jessica watched from a distance, her hands trembling with anxiety. She was sure she knew what the problem was, but she also knew she'd be ignored if she tried to speak up again. Deborah approached her discreetly. "Jessica, do you really think you know what it is?" "I have an idea, Deborah. But you know how they are." "What if I talk to Robert?" "No, forget it. I don't want any more trouble." But Deborah didn't give up. She knew Jessica's talent and understood the young mechanic was far more capable than the men would admit. In the 3 years they'd worked together, she'd seen Jessica solve complex problems that took others days to figure out. 2 hours passed. The sound of tools echoed through the shop, but the Cadillac remained unmoving. Richard was getting nervous, sweating as he took apart pieces without really knowing what he was looking for. Then Thomas Anderson arrived. He was an imposing man, 53 years old, wearing an expensive suit and carrying a leather briefcase. His blue eyes assessed the situation immediately. "Robert, how's my car?" "Thomas, we're still working on some final adjustments." "Final adjustments?" Thomas glanced at the open engine and scattered parts. This doesn't look like final adjustments. It looks like you don't know what you're doing. Robert swallowed hard. He could feel sweat trickling down his back. Give me a few more hours, please. A few hours? Thomas's voice hardened. Robert, I trusted you with my $500,000 car. If you can't fix it, I'll take it to the dealership in the city. Silence hung heavy in the air. Everyone knew what that meant. If Thomas left unsatisfied, he'd spread the word that the shop was incompetent. Within months, they'd be bankrupt. That's when Jessica made the bravest decision of her life. "Excuse me," she said, stepping toward the men. They all turned, surprised. Richard glared at her. "Jessica, go back to your place." "I'd like to take a look at the engine," she said, addressing Thomas directly. "You?" Thomas studied her from head to toe. "You're a mechanic?" "Yes, sir. I have a degree in automotive mechanics and specialize in high-performance engines." Richard let out a sarcastic laugh. "Boss, don't let her near your car. She'll mess something up." But something in Jessica's determined gaze caught Thomas's attention. He'd spent his whole life in the automotive industry and knew technical expertise when he saw it. "What kind of specialization?" "Embedded electronic systems and fault diagnosis in V12 engine ECUs, sir." Robert nearly choked. He had no idea Jessica had that kind of specialized knowledge. "And what's your theory about my car's problem?" Jessica took a deep breath. It was now or never. "Based on the engine noise and the symptoms I observed, I believe it's a failure in the transmission control module, specifically the communication between the main ECU and the automated shifting system. The engine is running perfectly, but it can't transfer power to the wheels." The silence was absolute. Even Richard stopped laughing. Thomas looked at Robert, then at the mechanics, and finally at Jessica. "Interesting. And how would you fix it?" "First, I'd run a communication test between the modules using a specialized scanner. If my suspicion is confirmed, we'd need to update the transmission module's software." "5 minutes," Thomas said suddenly. "I'll give you 5 minutes to prove you're right." Robert was panicking. Letting the only woman in the shop touch the most expensive car they'd ever handled seemed insane. "Thomas, I don't know if this is a good idea." "Robert, your experienced mechanics have had 3 days. Now she has 5 minutes. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now, continuing. Jessica walked to the car with trembling legs. All eyes were fixed on her. Richard, Mike, and Brian watched her with a mix of curiosity and disbelief. She opened her toolbox and grabbed a scanner she had bought with her savings. It was an expensive piece of equipment, one none of the other mechanics owned. "Where did you get that?" asked Mike, impressed. "I bought it with my first paycheck," Jessica replied, connecting the device to the car's system. She worked in silence, her fingers dancing over the controls with precision. Numbers and codes flashed on the screen, confirming her suspicions. "Here it is," she said, turning the screen so everyone could see. "Communication error between modules 7F2 and 8A4. Exactly what I thought." Thomas stepped closer to look at the screen. He knew enough about mechanics to realize Jessica was right. "And now? Now I need to access the central system to reprogram it. It'll take about 15 minutes. "Do it," said Thomas. Richard couldn't believe what he was seeing. The girl he humiliated every day had identified a problem he didn't even know existed. Jessica worked intently, her fingers typing complex codes into the computer connected to the car. She had studied this procedure during a specialization course she took on Saturdays, paying for it out of her own pocket. 15 minutes later, she started the engine. It purred perfectly, and when she pressed the accelerator, the car responded immediately. "Done," she said, stepping out of the vehicle. "The problem's fixed." Thomas got in the car and took it for a spin around the shop. Everything worked flawlessly. "Impressive," he said, stepping out with a smile. "In 3 years of bringing cars here, I've never seen such a precise and fast diagnosis." Robert Wilson Thompson didn't know what to say. He had underestimated Jessica all these years. "What's your name?" Thomas asked. "Jessica Miller, sir." "Jessica, you just saved my meeting tomorrow and probably saved this shop too." He turned to Robert. I wanted to be in charge of all my cars from now on. Of course, Thomas, no problem. After Thomas left, the atmosphere in the shop grew tense. The mechanics looked at Jessica with a mix of respect and resentment. How did you know how to do that? Brian asked, genuinely curious. I study. Every day after work I read technical manuals and take online courses. And why didn't you ever say you had this knowledge? Robert asked. I tried many times, but you never listened. An awkward silence filled the room. Everyone knew it was true. Richard walked away without a word. He was angry, but also confused. For 20 years, he had considered himself the best mechanic in the area. Watching a 27-year-old woman solve in 15 minutes a problem he couldn't fix in 3 days was a blow to his ego. In the following days, the news spread. Thomas Anderson told other business owners about the skilled mechanic at Progress Auto Repair. More luxury cars started arriving, all specifically requesting Jessica's services. Robert was happy with the increased revenue, but noticed the growing tension among the employees. Richard, especially, became increasingly hostile toward Jessica. This can't go on like this, he said to Mike and Brian during lunch. A girl can't be better than us. But she fixed the problem, Richard, Mike said. Maybe we should learn from her. Learn from her? Richard turned red with anger. I've been working with engines since before she was born, and yet she knew how to do what you couldn't, Brian shot back. The argument was interrupted when another luxury car arrived. It was an imported Corvette, brought by a new client who had heard about the shop through Thomas Anderson. I want to speak with Jessica, the client said as soon as he walked in. Robert Wilson smiled and called the young mechanic. Jessica analyzed the problem and, once again, demonstrated technical knowledge that impressed everyone. Richard watched from a distance, his anger growing with every compliment Jessica received. He began plotting a way to discredit her. That night, after everyone had left, Richard returned to the shop. He tampered with Jessica's tools, loosened some bolts, and hid important parts. His plan was to make her make mistakes the next day. On Monday morning, Jessica arrived early, as she always did. She loved the quiet of the shop before the other employees arrived. It was her moment of peace, mentally preparing for another workday. When she opened her toolbox, she immediately noticed something was off. Her wrenches were out of place, and some parts she had set aside were missing. Strange, she murmured to herself. She rearranged everything and started working on the first car of the day, a Lincoln Continental with steering issues. When she tried to use her number 14 wrench, she noticed it was loose. She nearly dropped a bolt into the engine. That's odd, she said, inspecting the tool. This wrench was fine yesterday. Throughout the day, small problems kept happening. Tools that didn't work right, parts that mysteriously vanished, bolts that came loose on their own. Richard watched everything with a faint smile, waiting for Jessica to make a serious mistake in front of an important client. But Jessica was very careful. She checked every tool before using it and double-checked her work multiple times. Richard's little acts of sabotage only made her more alert. By the end of the week, she started suspecting someone was tampering with her things. She decided to stay late to see if anyone would return to the shop. On Friday, at 8 in the evening, she hid in the bathroom when she heard the door open. Through the crack, she saw Richard walk in and head straight for her workbench. She discreetly turned on her phone's camera and recorded everything. Richard messing with her tools, hiding parts, loosening bolts. Son of a gun, she muttered, capturing every move. Saturday morning, she arrived at the shop with a decision made. She wouldn't stay silent about the humiliation anymore. Richard showed up half an hour later, greeting her with a fake smile. Good morning, Jessica. How are your tools today? They're great, Richard. Thanks for asking. He was puzzled by her calm response but said nothing. Around 10, a client arrived with a Ferrari for preventive maintenance, a car worth over $2 million. I want Jessica to take care of my car, said the client, a young businessman referred by Thomas Anderson. Richard couldn't hide his irritation, but Robert Wilson made sure Jessica handled the job. As she worked on the Ferrari, Richard approached. Be careful not to mess up, he said quietly. This car is worth more than your entire life. Relax, Richard. I know what I'm doing. You think you do, but just wait until you make a big mistake. Then I'll be here to remind you that a woman's place isn't tinkering with engines. Jessica stopped what she was doing and stared at him. Richard, you know what? I know it was you messing with my tools all week. What are you talking about? I have it all on video. Richard's face turned pale. You recorded me? Yes, I did. And you know what? I'm going to show it to Robert on Monday. You won't do that. Oh, I will. I'm tired of being humiliated by you. I'm tired of pretending I don't see your nasty behavior. Richard grew nervous. He knew if Robert saw the recording, he'd be fired on the spot. Listen here, girl, you don't know who you're messing with. Oh, I do. I'm dealing with an insecure man who's afraid of being outshone by a woman. The argument was interrupted when the owner of the Ferrari approached. Is everything all right here? Yes, sir, Jessica replied with a professional smile. Your car is almost ready. The customer eyed Richard suspiciously, who walked away grumbling. 2 hours later, the Ferrari was ready. The customer was impressed with the quality of the work and left Jessica a generous tip. Great job, said Robert, who had been watching everything. You're improving every day. Thank you, Robert. Can I speak with you privately? They went to the office away from the other mechanics. Jessica, I've noticed tension between you and Richard. Is something going on? Robert, can I be honest with you? Of course. Richard has been sabotaging my work. He messes with my tools, hides parts, and does everything he can to undermine me. Are you sure about this? I have proof. She showed him the video she had recorded. Robert watched in silence, his expression growing more serious. My God, Jessica. I had no idea this was happening. He does it because he can't stand that a woman is a better mechanic than him. And you are better than him. That's becoming clearer every day. Robert ran a hand through his hair, deep in thought. What do you want me to do? I just want to work in peace. I don't want him fired, but I want him to stop sabotaging me. I'll talk to him on Monday. But the weekend held a surprise that would change everything. On Sunday, Jessica got a call from Deborah. Jessica, are you home? Yes, why? I need to tell you something important. It's about Richard. What about Richard? He's not just an ordinary mechanic. He's Robert's cousin. Robert gave him the job 20 years ago, even though he wasn't fully qualified. Jessica fell silent, processing the information. How do you know this? Because I handle payroll, and because I overheard a conversation between them. Robert is worried but afraid to confront his cousin. That explains a lot. Jessica, be careful. Richard has more influence in the shop than it seems. On Monday, Jessica arrived at work with a completely new perspective. Now she understood why Richard had so much freedom to do as he pleased. Robert called Richard in for a private talk, but didn't show him the video. He simply asked him to treat Jessica with more respect. Cousin, you know I respect everyone here, Richard lied. I'm just asking you to give her a chance. She's a good professional. Of course, Robert, don't worry. But instead of improving, things got worse. Richard became subtler in his sabotage, but he didn't stop. A week later, a case arrived at the shop that would change everything. It was a rainy Thursday when a desperate man walked in, carrying a child about 5 years old in his arms. Please, can someone help me? He shouted. My car broke down on the road and my daughter is sick. The child was pale and struggling to breathe. The nearest hospital is 12 miles from here, said the man, who introduced himself as Christopher Edwards. I need my car running now. Robert looked at Richard. This is an emergency. Can you take a quick look? Richard approached the car, an old Ford Focus. He tried to start the engine, but nothing happened. It'll take a while to figure out the problem, he said. Better call a tow truck. A tow truck will take an hour to get here, said Christopher Edwards, growing more desperate by the minute. My daughter can't wait that long. Jessica watched the scene and made a decision. Let me take a look, she said, stepping closer to the car. Jessica, this isn't a joke, Richard said. The child's life could be at risk. That's exactly why I want to help. She popped the hood and began inspecting the engine. Say it was an old model, very different from the luxury cars she'd been working on lately. Fuel pump issue, she said after a few minutes, but I can improvise a temporary fix. She worked quickly, connecting wires and adjusting components. In 15 minutes, the car was running. "It's not a permanent solution," she explained to Christopher. "It'll last long enough for you to get to the hospital, but you'll need to replace the pump afterward." "Thank you so much," the man said, tears in his eyes. "You may have saved my daughter's life." As Christopher rushed off with the child, Jessica noticed everyone in the shop looking at her with admiration. Even Richard seemed impressed. "How did you know how to do that?" Brian asked. "My dad had a Focus just like this. I learned to work on it when I was a teenager." "Was your dad a mechanic?" Mike asked. "No, he was a bus driver, but he knew his way around cars and taught me the basics." Robert Wilson Thompson walked up to her. "Jessica, that was incredible. You saved that child." "I just did what anyone would do." "No, you did what an exceptional mechanic would do." That afternoon, Christopher returned to the shop with his daughter in his arms. The little girl was fine, smiling and playful. "Dr. Jessica," the child said, "Daddy told me you saved me." "Hi, sweetheart. How are you feeling?" "Much better. Thank you for fixing Daddy's car." Christopher handed Jessica an envelope. "This is for you. You don't have to pay me, it was an emergency. It's not money, it's a business card. I work at the City Hall in the Public Transportation Department. We're looking for someone to oversee maintenance for the municipal bus fleet." "Really? The salary is 3 times what you must make here, and you'd be the team leader." Jessica was speechless. It was the opportunity she'd always dreamed of. "Think it over," Christopher said. "You have a talent that shouldn't go to waste." After he left, the shop fell silent. Everyone had heard the offer. Richard was furious. The idea of Jessica earning 3 times his salary and being in charge of a team made him livid. "You're not actually considering this, are you?" he asked. "Why wouldn't I?" "Because you have a commitment here. Robert gave you a chance when no one else would." "Robert did give me a chance, that's true, but you did everything you could to make sure I couldn't make the most of it." "I never—" "Richard, enough. Everyone here knows how you treat me." Robert was worried. Losing Jessica now would be a disaster for the business. Over the past few months, she'd become responsible for more than half the shop's revenue. "Jessica, let's talk," he said. They went into the office again. "What can I do to make you stay?" "Robert, it's not about money. It's about respect." "You want me to fire Richard?" "No. I want you to make a choice. Either you support his work or mine, but this situation can't go on. You know it's complicated. He's my cousin, and I'm your most productive employee." Robert Wilson Thompson fell silent, weighing his options. "Give me a week to sort this out." "All right, but this is my last week here if things don't change." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now back to the story. That week, the tension in the shop grew day by day. Richard knew his position was threatened and stepped up his attempts to sabotage Jessica's work. On Tuesday, he spilled oil on the floor near her workstation, hoping she'd slip. Jessica noticed the trap and cleaned it up without a word. On Wednesday, he tampered with her torque wrench, an essential tool for tightening bolts with the right force. Jessica spotted the issue before using it and recalibrated it. On Thursday, he went too far. He messed with the electrical system of a car Jessica was repairing, causing a short circuit that could have been dangerous. This time, Jessica couldn't hide her anger. "Richard, this has gone too far," she said, confronting him in front of everyone. "What are you talking about?" "You know exactly what. You're playing with fire. You could have caused a serious accident." "You're crazy. I didn't touch anything." "Of course you did. And this time, there's a witness." Brian stepped forward, uneasy. "Jessica's right, Richard. I saw you messing with her car last night." "Brian, you're betraying me over a woman?" "It's not betrayal. It's honesty. What you're doing is wrong." Mike also spoke up. "Richard, man, this can't go on. Jessica's a great professional. We should be learning from her, not trying to hurt her." "You've all lost your minds," Richard shouted. "She's been here 3 years and now you think she's better than me." "She doesn't think she's better," Brian said. "She is better." The argument was cut short when a special client arrived. It was Thomas Anderson, bringing another car in for maintenance. "Where's Jessica?" he asked as soon as he walked in. "Right here, Mr. Anderson. I brought my wife to meet you. She was impressed when I told her about your work." An elegant woman in her 50s stepped forward. "So you're the famous Jessica," she said with a smile. "My husband won't stop talking about you." "Pleasure to meet you, ma'am. Catherine Anderson, and I have a question for you. Have you ever thought about starting your own business?" Jessica was surprised. "What do you mean?" "We have friends who are always looking for a trustworthy repair shop. If you opened your own place, we could refer clients to you." "That's an interesting idea, but I don't have the money to start a shop." "What if you had an investor?" Thomas smiled. "Jessica, I've been watching your work for months. You have exceptional technical knowledge and admirable professionalism. I'd be willing to invest in your business." "Are you serious?" "Completely serious," Catherine said. "In fact, I know the perfect spot, a warehouse near here that's up for rent." Richard listened from a distance, his anger turning to desperation. The idea of Jessica opening her own shop, and with Thomas Anderson's investment no less, was his worst nightmare. Robert Wilson Thompson was also listening and realized he was about to lose his best employee in a way far worse than he'd imagined. Not only would she leave, but she'd become his competitor. "Thomas, can we talk?" Robert said, stepping closer to the group. "Of course. Jessica is a very valuable employee to me. If you're interested in investing in her talent, how about we discuss a partnership right here?" "What do you mean?" "We could turn this shop into a bigger, more modern business. Jessica would be a partner, you would be the investor, and I would keep managing operations." Jessica looked surprised at Robert Wilson Thompson. It was the first time he had treated her as a valuable asset and not just an employee. "That's an interesting proposal," said Thomas Anderson. "But we'd need some changes in the shop's structure." "What kind of changes?" "First, Jessica would need full autonomy over technical services. Second, we'd need more modern equipment. Third, we'd require a more professional work environment." Everyone knew what that meant. Richard would have to completely change his attitude or be let go. "Thomas, can you give me until the end of the week to think about the proposal?" Robert asked. "Of course, but don't take too long. Opportunities like this don't come around often." After Thomas and Catherine left, the shop fell into tense silence. Everyone knew everything was about to change. Richard approached Robert. "Cousin, you can't seriously be considering this proposal." "Why not?" "Because it would mean handing control of the shop over to her, and she's just an employee." "Richard, she's the employee bringing in the best clients. She's the one solving the most complex problems. She's the one making our shop grow. But I've worked here for 20 years, and in those 20 years you've had plenty of chances to stand out. You chose to coast." "Robert, I'm your cousin. Doesn't that count for anything?" "Of course it does, but it can't be more important than the future of the business." That night, Robert stayed late at the shop, thinking over everything that had happened. He knew he was at a crossroads. On one side, there was family loyalty to Richard. On the other, the chance to turn his small shop into a thriving business with Jessica and Thomas's help. He remembered when his father founded the shop over 40 years ago. Old Robert's dream was to build a respected company known for quality service. In recent years, the shop had stagnated. The best clients went to dealerships in the city, leaving them with only the simplest jobs. Jessica's arrival had changed everything. For the first time in years, the shop was growing, building a reputation, attracting important clients. He picked up the phone and called his wife. "Mary, I need to talk to you about an important decision." "What happened?" "It's about the shop and about Richard." He told her everything. Richard's sabotage, Jessica's talent, Thomas's proposal. "Robert, you know what the right decision is," Mary said. "You can't let family feelings hurt the business's future." "But Richard is my cousin. How do I explain this to the family?" "You explain that you're saving everyone else's jobs, including Richard's if he knows how to behave. And if he doesn't, then your decision becomes even easier." Robert hung up with a sense of relief. His wife was right. He'd known the right choice from the start, but needed to hear it from someone he trusted. Friday morning, he arrived at the shop with his decision made. "Everyone, I need to talk to you," he said, gathering all the employees. Yesterday, Thomas Anderson made a proposal to turn our shop into a bigger, more modern business. I've decided to accept. What does that mean for us? Mike asked. It means we'll invest in new equipment, expand the space, and specialize in luxury and high-performance cars. And who's taking over the technical side? Brian asked. Jessica will be the new technical manager. She'll have full authority over all services. The silence was absolute. Everyone looked at Richard, who was red with anger. What about me? He asked. You can keep working here, but you'll have to adapt to the new rules. That means respecting the hierarchy and working as a team. Work for her? Richard pointed at Jessica. Work with her, and with everyone else. Robert, this is humiliating. Richard, what's humiliating is what you've been doing to Jessica for the past 3 years. You're choosing a stranger over family. I'm choosing the future of the company my father built. Richard tore off his jumpsuit and threw it on the floor. Then I quit. Are you sure? Absolutely. He stormed out of the shop, slamming the door behind him. Everyone stood in silence for a few minutes. Folks, Robert said, I know this was a tough decision, but it was necessary. From now on, we're going to work as a real team. Jessica stepped closer to him. Robert, thank you for your trust. I promise I won't let you down. I know you won't, and I want you to know I've always recognized your talent. I just took too long to find the courage to do what was right. What matters is that you did. In the weeks that followed, the shop underwent a complete transformation. Thomas invested in state-of-the-art equipment, the space was expanded and modernized, and Jessica implemented new work procedures. Mike and Brian adapted quickly to the changes. They realized working with Jessica was an opportunity to learn and grow professionally. The shop began offering specialized services no one else in the area provided: advanced electronic diagnostics, ECU reprogramming, preventive maintenance for race cars. Within months, the waiting list was full. Cars came from neighboring towns just to be serviced by Jessica's team. Deborah was promoted to office manager, and 2 more employees were hired to assist her. Jessica, Robert said one day, you've turned this shop into something I never thought possible. We did it together, Robert. This was a team effort. That's true, but you were the inspiration behind it all. 6 months after Richard left, he showed up at the shop again. He was thinner, looking worn out. Robert, can I talk to you? Of course, Richard. Come in. They went to the office, which was now much larger and better organized. How have you been? Not great, to be honest. I couldn't get a job at any shop in the area. Why? Because word got out that I sabotaged a co-worker. No one wants to hire someone they can't trust. Robert stayed silent. I was wrong, cousin, really wrong. Go on. Jessica really is a better mechanic than me, and instead of trying to learn from her, I tried to tear her down out of pure pride. What do you want now? A second chance. Not as head mechanic, not as manager, just as an employee. I want to learn, I want to grow, I want to be part of a real team. Richard, this isn't just my decision. If you come back, you'll be working under Jessica's supervision. Are you okay with that? I am. Then I'll talk to her. Robert called Jessica into the office and explained the situation. What do you think? Robert, I don't hold grudges. If he's really changed and is willing to work as a team, I don't have a problem with it. You're sure? I am. But he'll have to prove he's changed through actions, not just words. Deal. Richard returned to work at the shop, but now in a completely different position. He was respectful to everyone, especially Jessica, and showed a genuine willingness to learn. Jessica, he said a few weeks later, I want to apologize, not just for what I did, but for all the time I wasted trying to hurt you instead of learning from you. Thank you, Richard. That means a lot to me. Can you teach me that electronic diagnostic technique? Of course. We can start tomorrow. A year after the big transformation, the repair shop received a special visit. It was Christopher Edwards, the father of the girl Jessica had helped. Jessica, how are you? Christopher Edwards, so good to see you. How's your daughter? Great, growing and healthy, and it's because of her that I'm here. How so? She won't stop talking about the doctor Jessica who saved her life. She said when she grows up she wants to be a mechanic just like you. Really? Really? And I came here to ask you something. Would you be willing to give her some lessons on Saturdays? She's 7 now and very curious about cars. Of course I will, it would be my pleasure. And there's one more thing, remember that offer I made for you to work for the city? I do. Well, we need a technical consultant to evaluate the repair shops that service city vehicles. It's part-time work you can do on weekends. Interested? Very interested. In the following months, Jessica began teaching Christopher's daughter and other kids from the neighborhood. She created a small automotive education program to spark young people's interest in the profession. On Saturdays, her shop turned into a classroom where girls and boys learned the basics of mechanics. Listen up, she'd tell the kids. Working on cars isn't just for men or women, it's for anyone who loves learning and solving problems. The news of the social project reached the local papers. Jessica was interviewed by the regional TV station, and her story became an example of resilience and perseverance. What's your advice for other women who want to get into mechanics? The reporter asked. Study hard, never give up, and prove your skills through your work. Prejudice exists, but it fades when you show you know what you're doing. And for the men in the field, give women a chance. We can learn from each other. Skill has no gender. The interview aired on a Thursday night. The next day, Jessica received dozens of messages from women across the country sharing their own experiences and asking for advice. Robert, she said, I think our project could grow far beyond the shop. What do you have in mind? What if we created vocational courses for women, partnerships with technical schools, companies, government agencies? That's a fantastic idea. Let's talk to Thomas about this. Thomas was thrilled with the proposal and offered funding to expand the project. Within 2 years, the shop had become a hub for women's professional training in the automotive field. Women came from all over to take the courses. Jessica was invited to speak at universities, auto industry trade shows, and business events. Everyone, she said during a talk at the local university, my story isn't just about mechanics. It's about refusing to accept limits others try to place on you. It's about believing in your own potential, even when no one else does. In the audience, a young student raised her hand. Jessica, what would you say to someone facing workplace discrimination? I'd say 3 things. First, document everything. Second, never bow to injustice. Third, let your work speak for you. Skill is the best answer to prejudice. What if the person can't take it anymore? Then it's time to seek new horizons, but never give up on your dream because of small-minded people. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us as we're just starting out. Now, continuing. 3 years after that first day when she fixed Thomas's Cadillac, Jessica was in her office organizing plans for the new training center when she received an unexpected visitor. It was a young woman around 22 years old, with the same determined look Jessica had when she first started at the shop. Excuse me, are you Jessica Miller? Yes, I am. How can I help you? My name is Rachel Thompson. I graduated as a mechanic 6 months ago and can't find work anywhere. Why not? Because I'm a woman. Every place I apply says they prefer hiring men. Jessica smiled, remembering her own journey. Sit down, let's talk. She spent an hour talking with Rachel, understanding her struggles and dreams. Rachel, would you like to work here? Really? You'd give me a chance? Of course, but I'll tell you something. Here you'll work hard, study a lot, and prove every day that you deserve to be here. I accept. Great. You start Monday. In the following months, Jessica trained Rachel personally, passing on not just technical knowledge but also the confidence needed to face the challenges of the profession. Jessica, Rachel said one day, how do you stay so strong? I never see you discouraged. Rachel, I do get discouraged, but I've learned that discouragement is temporary. What matters is not letting it paralyze you. And when people doubt you, I let my work speak for me. And when that's not enough, I seek out people who value competence over prejudice. Like Robert Wilson Thompson. No, Robert took 3 years to value me, like Thomas, who saw my potential from day one. Does that mean we should give up on those who don't believe in us? It means we should invest our energy in those who give us real opportunities to grow. One day, a case arrived at the shop that would challenge both Jessica and her entire team. It was a race car, a prototype meant for an international competition. The problem was so complex that even the manufacturer's own engineering team couldn't solve it. "Jessica," said the race team's leader, "this car is worth $5 million. If we don't fix the issue by next week, we lose our chance to compete." "What exactly is the problem?" "The engine loses power at high RPMs. We've checked everything: injection, ignition, turbo, intercooler. Everything's perfect, but the issue persists." Jessica analyzed the engine for hours. It was an impressive feat of engineering, with technologies she'd never seen before. "Team," she said, "this is a challenge that'll demand everything we know, and then some." Mike, Brian, Richard, and Rachel gathered around the car. "Where do we start?" Rachel asked. "Let's divide the engine into systems, and each of us will analyze one part," Jessica said. They worked for 3 intense days. Every system was meticulously checked, every component tested individually. "Boss," Brian said on the third day, "I found something odd in the exhaust system." "What is it?" "There's a valve here operating out of sync. It's a difference of microseconds, almost imperceptible. But would that cause power loss?" "At high RPMs, yes. The engine would be losing exhaust gases at the wrong moment." Jessica examined Brian's discovery. It was an extremely subtle issue, detectable only with highly precise equipment. "That could be it. But how do we fix it?" "We need to reprogram the ECU," Rachel said. "But it's a system I've never worked with." "Neither have I," Jessica admitted. "But we'll learn." They spent the night studying technical manuals and watching online training videos. By morning, they were ready to attempt the reprogramming. "If we make a mistake, we could damage the entire engine," said Mike. "That's why we'll back everything up before starting," replied Jessica. The reprogramming took 6 hours. It was a job of extreme precision, where every parameter had to be adjusted in tenths of milliseconds. "Done," said Jessica at 4 in the afternoon. "Let's test it." The engine was started and gradually brought to high RPMs. This time there was no loss of power. "We did it!" shouted Rachel. "Wait," said Jessica. "Let's run a few more tests to be sure." For 2 hours they tested the engine under every possible condition. Everything worked perfectly. The race team's boss arrived late in the afternoon to pick up the car. "Did you fix it?" "We did," Jessica said with a smile. They gave a demonstration showing the engine running at full power without any issues. "This is incredible," said the engineer. "Our technicians in Germany couldn't figure out this problem." "It was a team effort," Jessica replied. "Everyone here contributed to the solution." "How much is the bill?" $15,000. $15,000? For a job that saved an international competition? I'll pay double." "That's not necessary. We agreed on 15. "Then take this as a bonus for excellence." He handed her an envelope with another 15,000. "And there's one more thing. We want to hire you as the team's technical partners. It would be an annual contract for 200,000. The team fell silent, processing the offer. "Can I discuss it with my team and give you an answer tomorrow?" "Of course." After he left, everyone celebrated. It was the highest professional recognition the shop had ever received. "Jessica," said Robert, "you've turned this shop from a small family business into an international reference." "We did, Robert. This was only possible because we built a real team." "That's true. And now we have to decide if we're ready for this next step." "Do you think we are?" Jessica asked the team. "I think so," said Brian. "We've already proven we can solve problems even the best engineers in the world couldn't." "I agree," said Mike. "It's our chance to show our work to the whole world." "What about you, Richard?" "Jessica, 3 years ago, I tried to destroy you because I was afraid you were better than me. Today, I know you're not just better. You're one of the best mechanics I've ever met. If you think we should accept, I support it. And you, Rachel?" "Jessica, you gave me a chance when no one else would. Now it's my turn to help build something bigger." "Then it's decided. We'll accept the offer." The next day, they signed the partnership contract with the race team. It was the beginning of a new chapter in all their lives. 3 months later, Jessica was at a racetrack in Europe. watching the first race of the season. The car they had repaired was in pole position. "How do you feel?" asked an international reporter. "Proud, not just of myself but of my whole team. 4 years ago I was just a mechanic no one took seriously. Today we're technical partners for one of the best race teams in the world." What was the secret to your success? Never giving up, always learning, and always believing skill matters more than prejudice. The race began. The car they had worked on took the lead and stayed there the entire time. When the checkered flag waved, Jessica had tears in her eyes, not of sadness but of joy and pride. Her phone rang. It was a video call from the shop. The whole team was gathered, watching the race. "Jessica, did you see? We won," Rachel shouted. "We won," Jessica corrected. "All of us." "When are you coming back?" asked Robert Wilson Thompson. "Next week, and I'll have some news." "What kind of news?" "The team wants us to set up a specialized shop here in Europe too, and they want me to be the head technical manager." "Really? Really? But I'll only accept if you all agree to come with me." "All of us?" "All of you, we're a team. It doesn't make sense to separate from you now." The silence on the other end was broken by cheers of celebration. "Of course we're in," said Brian. "It'll be quite the adventure," said Mike. "I've always wanted to see Europe," said Rachel. "What about me?" asked Richard, joking. "You'd still take me after everything I've done?" "Especially after everything you've learned, Richard." 2 years later, Jessica was in her office at the new shop in Detroit, Germany, when she got a call from the United States. "Jessica, it's Christopher Edwards. Remember me?" "Of course. How are you? And your daughter?" "We're great. My daughter is 12 now and still crazy about cars. She won't stop saying she wants to be a mechanic like you. That's wonderful to hear. Actually, I'm calling for another reason. Did you see the news from the United States today?" "No. Why?" The federal government passed a law requiring all auto repair shops to have at least 30% female employees. "Really?" "Really. And you know the reasoning. They cited your example. They said you proved women can be just as skilled as men in the automotive field." Jessica was moved. She never imagined her story could influence public policy. "That's incredible, Christopher." And there's more. They want to create a national training program for female mechanics, and they want you to be the general coordinator. "But I'm living in Germany." "It would be consulting work. You could develop the curriculum and train the instructors. You wouldn't have to move back." Jessica thought about the offer. It was a chance to impact thousands of women across the United States. "Christopher, I need to talk to my team here. Can I give you an answer next week?" "Of course, but I hope it's a yes. The United States needs you." That night, Jessica gathered her whole team for dinner. They had become not just co-workers, but family. "Everyone, I got a very special offer today," she said, explaining the government program. "And you want to accept?" asked Rachel. "I do, but I don't want to do it alone." "What do you mean?" "I want you all to be my partners in this too. Each of you has unique knowledge and experience that can help others." "But how would that work?" asked Robert. "We could start a consulting firm. We develop training programs here and apply them both in the United States and Europe." "Jessica," said Richard, "you always think big." "It's because I've learned that when you believe in your potential, limits disappear." "Then let's do it," said Mike. "Let's help others achieve their dreams like you helped us. And let's show that prejudice can be overcome with hard work, dedication, and unity," added Brian. 6 months later, the Women of the Engine program launched across the United States. Within just 1 year, over 5,000 women were trained and found jobs in the automotive industry. Jessica was invited to speak at the UN about gender equality in the workforce. Her story became a global example of overcoming barriers and turning adversity into opportunity. "Ladies and gentlemen," she said in her UN speech, "my journey began in a small shop where I was humiliated every day. Today, I stand here speaking to representatives from around the world about the importance of equal opportunities for all. Prejudice exists, that's true. But he doesn't have the power to define our future. We define our own future through our choices, our work, and our persistence. When a woman carves out space in a traditionally male-dominated field, she isn't just fulfilling her own dream. She's paving the way for other women. She's proving that competence has no gender. So, my advice to all the women watching is, believe in your potential, study hard, work tirelessly, and never ever give up on your dreams because of someone else's prejudice. And to the men listening, give women a chance. You'll find we can learn so much from one another. Diversity doesn't weaken a team, it strengthens it. The speech was met with a standing ovation lasting over 5 minutes. Tears streamed down Jessica's face, but they were tears of joy. After the talk, a young woman approached her. "Jessica, my name is Emily. I'm from the United States and studying mechanical engineering here in New York." "That's wonderful, Emily. How can I help you?" "I wanted to thank you. Your story inspired me not to give up when professors said engineering wasn't for women." "And how are you doing?" "I'm top of my class." "Congratulations. You're proof that when we dedicate ourselves, we can overcome any obstacle." "Jessica, can I ask you something?" "Of course. Are you afraid that now that you're so famous, people will forget you're a real mechanic?" Jessica smiled. "Emily, I'll never forget where I came from. And whenever I can, I go back to the shop to get my hands dirty with grease. That's what makes me happy. What's your next project?" "We're developing a program to teach basic mechanics to kids in public schools. We want to spark passions early with no gender distinctions." "Can I help?" "Absolutely. We're always looking for volunteers." 5 years after leaving the United States, Jessica decided to return for a special visit: the inauguration of the first all-women automotive technical school in Latin America. The school was built where an abandoned repair shop once stood, right near Progress Auto Repair, which was still running under Robert Wilson Thompson's supervision. "Jessica," Deborah called out when she saw her arrive. "I've missed you." "Deborah, how are you?" "Great. I'm the school's administrative director now. Who would have thought, huh?" "You deserve it. You've always been so capable." The inauguration ceremony was attended by officials, business leaders, and hundreds of young women eager to enroll in the courses. "Jessica," the mayor said during the ceremony, "this school exists because you proved women can be outstanding mechanics. Do you have a message for the future students?" "I do," Jessica said, stepping up to the microphone. "Ladies, you're entering a profession that will challenge you every day. It won't be easy, but it will be rewarding. Will you face prejudice? Probably. But remember, prejudice is the problem of those who hold it, not yours. Your job is to study, train, and show your competence. When I started in mechanics nearly 10 years ago, I was the only woman in the shop. Today, there are thousands of women working in the automotive field across the United States and the world. That happened because every one of us who entered this profession opened a door for the next. Now it's your turn to open doors for those who come after you. Study hard, work tirelessly, be honest and skilled, and above all, never give up on your dreams." After the ceremony, Jessica visited her old shop. It was unrecognizable, modern, spacious, with state-of-the-art equipment. "Look who's here!" Brian shouted. He had returned to the United States to take over as the shop's technical manager. "Brian, I've missed you." "How's life in Europe?" "Wonderful. But sometimes I miss this place. And the others. Mike is in France, Rachel in Italy, and Richard in Spain. All of them as heads of their own teams. And Robert? Retired, but he comes here every day to check things out. You know how it is, right?" They laughed. Robert had always been passionate about the shop. "Jessica," said a familiar voice. She turned and saw Richard walking into the shop. "Richard, what are you doing here?" "I came for the school's opening, and to see you. I thought you were in Spain." "I am. But I got an offer to come back to the United States and open a branch of our consulting firm here." "Really? Really? And I wanted to know if you'd be interested in being my partner." "Richard, are you sure? After everything that happened, Jessica, you taught me that past mistakes can be turned into future successes. I want to use my experience to help other men understand that working with competent women is an opportunity, not a threat." "That's an interesting offer. Think about it. It would be good to have you back in the United States." That night, Jessica had dinner with her family. Her parents, now older, were proud of their daughter but missed her. "Sweetheart," her mother said, "you've conquered the whole world, but our home feels empty without you." "Mum, you know I love you, but I had to follow my dreams." "And we've always supported you," her father said. "But now that you've proven everything you needed to, don't you want to come home?" "Actually, Dad, I've been thinking about it." "Really? Really? I'm considering accepting Richard's offer and coming back for good." "That would be wonderful," her mother said, emotional. "But I have one condition." "What is it?" "I want you both to be my partners too. I want to create a family business that honors everything you've taught me about hard work and honesty." 3 months later, Jessica was back in the United States for good. The company Miller & Associates Automotive Consulting was launched in a ceremony attended by representatives from automakers around the world. The firm offered technical consulting, professional training, and inclusion project development in the automotive industry. "Jessica," a journalist asked during the press conference, "looking back, would you change anything about your journey?" "I wouldn't change a thing. Every challenge I faced taught me something important. Every humiliation made me stronger. Every achievement gave me more responsibility." "And what's your message for young women who want to follow in your footsteps?" "That they shouldn't follow my footsteps. They should create their own paths. I've opened some doors, but there are many more to be opened. And for employers who still hesitate to hire women in technical roles, that they're missing out on incredible talent because of outdated prejudices. Competence doesn't have a gender." A year later, Miller & Associates had become the largest automotive consulting firm in Latin America. Jessica had hired over 50 professionals, 70% of them women. "Boss," said Rachel, who had returned from Italy to be the company's technical director, "we've received a very special invitation." "What is it?" "Formula One wants you to be their official technical consultant for the championship. You'd be the first woman in that role. Do you think I should accept?" "I think you should follow your heart." "My heart says I've already achieved all my dreams. Now I want to help others achieve theirs." "So you're going to decline?" "No. I'll accept, but on one condition. I want to bring a team of female mechanics to work with me. Formula One has never had female mechanics on the teams." Then it's about time they did. End of story. And now, dear listener, tell us, what did you think of Jessica's journey? Do you know any woman who has gone through similar situations? Leave your comment with heartfelt words about how this story touched you. Do you think Jessica's perseverance was inspiring? We'd love to read your opinion. Thank you so much for being here with us. Don't forget to leave your like and, most importantly, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss other moving stories like this one.